harmonizing, enmeshing quality starts to fall away. And there becomes, with that, hopefully, I think it's the case, more curiosity about other people. Because essentially a great deal of our being is mimetic. That is to say, we mimic what is going on around us. That's mainly how babies are learning. They're absorbing and responding. Our adult ego becomes a fixed menu, a kind of pro forma, a template out of which we respond. The more we see the limitation of that and dissolve it, we get back more into the state of the child, a childlike state of openness and responding. In that way, the world is feeding us new possibilities and new ideas. I think that's the most important way into this. Of course, if you become interested in meditation, there are many groups you can go to learn basic meditation technique, and through that you can have more capacity to become still, relaxed and open, and then more free and unconstrained in your responsiveness. But anybody can start to see how I tie myself in knots. So that when you take that up, of course you encounter guilt and shame. How can I be curious about myself when, as soon as I'm curious, I start to feel bad? I don't like myself. That opens up a new trajectory. So always with inquiry, it's like a big river like the Ganges. As it comes to the sea, it has these endless numbers of mouths. So you have one line of inquiry, but they open up again and again. Why do I feel so guilty? What is it about me that is so terrible, so awful? Then you have to really look into that. Of course, if you fall into the idea, you just get captured. But if you can start to think and you start to see, oh, as the Buddha said, all arising things are passing things. This is an arising situation. It has arisen due to causes and circumstances, due to patterns of our childhood, the families we grew up in, the schools we went to. These limited, judgmental, harsh, or on the other extreme, self-indulgent, self-destructive attitudes have been taken on as our core identity. The more you observe them, you start to think, oh, that's just a number that I'm running. That's a pre-formed package. It's a set of presuppositions. And so it functions as a foreclosure. It closes down this immediate, fresh space of existence. And so I'm constrained. Oh, it's a horrible thing to think how unfree I am. So observation becomes the doorway to freedom, but the road to freedom comes from encountering and releasing the limitations. There's no magical way to leap from a state of constraint to a state of freedom. You will have moments of freedom, but the constraints, because they are so addictive, because there is no strong door on the front of our existence, because we are so porous, so malleable, so responsive, again and again we find ourselves being caught up in strange ways. The path of observation is not to be daunted, to be relaxed, and to give it the time that it takes. At the heart of that is not being conditioned. As long as we are conditioned by events, we will become limited, constrained, confused. But if we can just think, oh, that's something I do, that's something I get caught up in, and observe in that moment the one who is aware of getting caught up in it and the one who is actually caught up in it look the same but as very slightly different. So the observer and the engaged agent are both called I, but they're slightly different. At the moment, all our attention is I as the agent, I as the one who's doing things. Oh my God, why did I do that? Oh, all these intense feelings, hopes, fears. This is the primary sense of my identification. But the more I observe that, oh, I'm still here as the observer, as that angry moment has gone, as that hopeless moment has gone, as that happy moment has gone. There's a continuity of the observer in the face of, absolutely inseparable from, the transient appearance of me being this, me being that. The deeper you go into that, you start to see the primordial integration of Dzogchen.
So in a way, what you're saying is that the practice, if you like, is the ability to stay with the observer rather than being caught up in the manifestation.
That's right.
With the I am rather than I am something, the story.
That's right.
And when one learns to relax and be at ease with the different perception, then one can see that all the manifestation has just endless stories, either repeating themselves or ceasing, passing, arising. Is that
absolutely
the kind of practice then?
And because we live in a world of stories, it's an aspect of compassion to keep being in story time with other people. Stories are not the problem. It's not if we all went silent, we would all be enlightened. Stories are linking and connective. What they are not is true. If you imagine that the story is telling you the truth of the world, you're going to get really lost. But if you imagine storytelling as more like a gentle caress that is bonding and linking and illuminating of the non-duality or the inseparability of subject and object, then it's very helpful. And going back to the point you were making, this I am is so easily permeated by I am this, I am that. That's the point of the real work. Again and again, letting go of whatever adjectives, adverbs, identifications arise that will start to obscure the ever-open freshness of just being present.
Thanks for that. There's a couple more questions.
Okay.
How did you become involved? How did you come across the Dzogchen teachings?
I came across them. When I was at school, I became very interested in Advaita Vedanta and the Upanishads through reading and through some connections of groups that were around in the city I grew up in, Glasgow in Scotland. But the real connection with Dzogchen came a little bit from encountering Chogyam Trungpa when he was in Johnson House, and then Samyeling as it became in Scotland when I was at university. And then mainly in being in India and meeting various teachers. I got a lot of teaching on Dzogchen from Sia Lama, my main teacher, and also from Dzogchen Rinpoche and various other teachers.
And what was it like to be around Sia Lama and spend time with him?
Sia Lama was a very, how shall I say, a very unconstrained person. So he had many, many shifts of mood and expression. And one of the things I learned was that if he was expanding, that was a very good time to contract oneself. Because if you try to stand firm, you just get rolled over. So there were lots of painful ego encounters in that way. But luckily we were living in a very beautiful sort of university village in Bengal, in Shantiniketan. And in the evenings I could walk out into the fields and see the moonlight shining on the ponds and the palm trees. And that sense of spaciousness and the practice of Tantra, which is about energy, about peaceful movements, wrathful movements, erotic movements, sullen movements, and how to experience that energy as a continuous flow. That gave me some capacity to experience the pulsations of his being as something that I could align myself with by being more malleable, more flexible. I'd have to say sometimes I felt lonely and sad and crushed, that there wasn't any space for me. But when I could come more into the practice, I could start to directly feel that actually flexibility is a much healthier and satisfying and peaceful way of being than holding a rigid position. That what I gained by standing up for myself was very little. And what I gained by finding ways of moving with a dominant force was that all the sclerotic, arthritic, locked parts of myself started to ease up. As long as I was seeing things in terms of winning and losing, that's to say, as long as I was restaging or transferring the wounded narcissism of my childhood, of seeing authority figures as bossing me around and I don't have to and why should I and leave me alone. As long as I was stuck in that, my resistance was simply imprisoning myself. But by having the good fortune to live in the house with the teacher and see him in all sorts of different situations, in the face of my own neurotic fury, gradually I managed to loosen up a wee bit.